All right, welcome back in, everybody, to another episode of UAB Blazers, the beginning, first season playthrough. This is season 1, episode 10. And in this episode, I think we're just going to basically kind of go the same format I have the last couple weeks as far as game weeks. So in the last episode, we kind of closed out with our tragic loss to Houston. Basically, really bad. But we closed out, looked at the games and standings and some of the leaderboards, and then we went into checking and seeing what happened on our recruiting week as far as closing out that week for recruiting. And kind of disappointingly, I didn't really get any commits that week. Not really shocked, because everything we have offered out there to this point really is just a single offer out there to everybody. I'm not really competing with anybody else from an offer standpoint, but that doesn't really mean anything. There's probably, of course, the reason that their interest really isn't increasing, I'm sure, is because there's a lot of others out there, going after them, but they just haven't offered yet, and that's kind of my fears. I think when that happens, it's going to kind of open the floodgates where it may end up losing some of these, but that's expected. You're not going to get everybody you go for, and even if you really pound them hard in the very beginning and stay after them and just spend a lot of money on them, through the first 10 weeks, and they've been on your board forever, you're still going to lose probably as many or more than what you're going to get. You just have to, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you're keeping enough on your board to kind of go behind them that's trying to keep out enough interest there that you have fallbacks. Look at fallback A, fallback B, fallback C, just for if you lose this guy, then I'm going to kind of do this. And even that sometimes doesn't play out very well because you end up losing your fallback even in the same week sometimes, like I did last week when my cornerback that I had offered, he committed elsewhere, and then the guy that I was going to offer as a backup committed elsewhere to somebody else that same week. And so this past week we didn't get any commits, so we're still sitting with four commits. I've got a 4-star and 3 3-stars. The last commit we had was a week before last from the New York quarterback, Mark Penn. We did end up losing some players that were on our board and we were recruiting. Rasheed Bromley's free safety that we had on our board, we weren't recruiting him extremely hard. We had, I had a few people kind of in front of him that I was kind of looking at above him. The wide receiver that I almost offered this Kendrell Joseph last week as far as a scholarship. I'm not sure that it would have made a difference. He went to a higher prestige school, TCU, committed to him. So I probably was a little late in the game on him anyway. Did like him a lot. Did want to probably go after him. And I probably would have offered him this week had he still been available. But I had a couple receivers I added on the board. I just wanted to get a little bit more information on them. And then Alonzo Cedric's the running back. So I got my running backs committed to us, Kenton Saunders. And I had a couple of them out there. I had Ambrose that I kind of pulled off the board just because of his lack of hands. But I still kept Cedric's and Pierpont on. I've still got Pierpont out there just kind of still talking to him. But I did like both of these guys a lot. But Cedric's is off the board now as he's committed to Vanderbilt. And Geronimo Cassell committed to South Alabama. He's a defensive end that we had on our board. Few down in line as far as probably looking at really giving an offer. So, wasn't really a lot of recruiting money spent on him. And then Rashante Lanier was my free safety that I had an offer to. Was really pushing to get him, wanted him signed. He was pretty leaps and bounds ahead of any other free safeties that I had on my board. It's pretty thin in that area. It might even be to a point to where I may try and sign another strong safety or look at something else there that if I don't really have anything available that I can kind of plug in and replace them with there too. So Nelmer San Angelo's started showing more interest in us. He had 2 scholarship offers out there. We did not offer a scholarship, but he was a fallback. He was probably the next in line to get an offer. I shied away from that a little bit just with the other 2 offers that he had. Kind of kept him there because his interest was increasing, but he's went ahead and just committed to Jacksonville State, so he's kind of off the board as well. And then we had, players that we had hidden, guys that, we had looked at one point. I think I had them on the boards for, some of them for a few weeks and this, that, and the other, but several of those have fallen off as well, so I won't really go into too much detail there. There was basically, the one surprise there was Darnay Martin. He didn't really look, that strong. I was really questioning even, looking at him and thinking I had several other options out there, even as UAB, but he ended up committing to LSU, which is, kind of a surprise. I didn't expect him to kind of go that well or that high to a high prestige, power school. I think Swank and Bankston, a couple of them there. Doss Hornsby at one point was kind of there. I didn't spend a lot of money. Really wasn't a lot of effort put into any of these guys that we had hid that kind of went away. So not too bad there. Now I did go through and I've updated my board and I've kind of got everything out there as far as all of my offers and everything that's kind of out there. I've got a couple people that I've added to my board that I'm getting, going through interviews for. So I've added a tight end, a couple free safeties that I went out and kind of searched for and found, and another receiver. And we're going to interview them and contact and phone pretty much on all those individuals now. This tight end looks pretty interesting because I'll go ahead and cover this now, but I ended up pulling the scholarship off of Orton. And the reason being is he ended up getting four more offers that kind of came in just all at once. And his information came out that basically he was thinking that Texas Tech was giving him the best option for the most playing time. So that was really the only thing I had to offer was playing time, because outside of playing close to home, which he didn't really care at all about. So not having that as an issue, I'm not competing with any of these other guys. And I think Texas Tech, if he gets more playing time and he's able to go to the Big 12 and play for Texas Tech in a power conference, that's going to blast me out of the water. So I've just went ahead and turned that one in, pulled that one, and I did immediately turn back around and offer Greg Curtis. So I've added him to the list now, so he has an offer out there to him. So hopefully this starts making a difference on him, because I do like this guy a lot. I mean, he's pretty above average pass blocking and run blocking. Pretty good speed and hands, for a tight end too. So he will fit right in for what I need, and smart kid. If I can get him, that'll be great. This guy that I've added is Scotty Gladham. I'm going to get information on him because he looks basically pretty comparable to what Greg Curtis is too. So I've just got to keep plugging away. I mean, Jermaine Bird has, increased his interest a touch. But if either one of these fall out, I've got to, find somebody. I'm losing 2 tight ends, so I figure I've got to at least get one. Would really prefer to go ahead and get 2. This year I just want to sign on 1 for 1. If I'm losing 2, I want to get 2. But going back to the board, so no quarterbacks, not pursuing there. I've got Pierpont, still running a contact on him. Minimal money spent. It's only about $10,000. I'm drastically quickly dwindling my money down. So now I've spent, I'm north of the $2 million recruiting budget spent, and I've got basically about 1.65 left. I really need to keep about 500 of that to kind of go to facilities. So I'm at the point now with about 6 weeks left still to cover, and I've only got about another 1.1 million to spend. So And these next 3 weeks are going to be probably heavier spend weeks, just simply for trying to get some of the official visits covered. And so it's going to be a juggling act there, I think. So I still have these two fullbacks here. I'm going to keep them here. I'm just going to kind of stay in contact and see what kind of happens with both of them. Nothing's really changed on any of their ratings. I mean, this guy's, well, I take that back. His speed is an A now, so he B- strength. So he's been good running pass blocking. He's fitting right in with what I would like to have for a fullback. So, but again, I've got 2 on the roster, and neither one are graduating. I really don't need 3 fullbacks, but just depending on how things play out, I'm just kind of hoping to keep my options open in some of these areas. Tight ends we covered, so $68,000 up a wild hog's butt. Recruiting Caleb Orton, I guess that's the way it goes. Yeah, I knew that was a stab in the dark, going after a 4-star, 85 ranked guy. That the only thing I was banking on early on was him being from Alabama. That if Alabama and Auburn, neither one needed something, he was really, really important for him to stay close to home. That'd be a card up my sleeve. But I should have probably pulled $50,000 ago when I found out that playing close to home didn't mean squat to him. I should have known then. I was just cooked. But just kept throwing those Hail Marys. But anyway, that's how it goes. Receivers, I've added Lamarius Harden, and he doesn't have great hands. He's not really great strength, but he's pretty decent everywhere else. Again, these could change just as easy as this could get better. Some of these other ones could get worse. So I just need to throw something out there. He's a 3-star, but he's got like an 1163 ranking. So he's Indianapolis, Indiana. So he's a little distance away. So I'm not really sure who's recruiting him at the moment and how much maybe he's even been recruited. But as far as the rest of my receivers, so I've still got. I went ahead and another offer I went ahead and did, and I was really kind of torn on that because Michael Curry now has an offer elsewhere. I just really feel like with his ranking that and the top school is Tennessee. I don't know that that's necessarily who is offered. That's definitely who Tennessee's hitting him because he's got peak interest in them right now. May not be the school that's after him, but I'm not going to chance it, and especially with him being kind of out of the region and everything, I'm just going to assume it's probably Tennessee. And then looking back on it too, I mean, he was good, but he wasn't like just off the chart good, especially for someone like around the 788 rank that I kind of would expect. So everything kind of fell back. Looking at Dudley, Dudley was pretty dang decent also. And he graded pretty well too, 6'2". And I've got my offer out there to Ramars Felder, which I've had for quite a while. But it just was still some interest. So those things are not looking extremely well. L.J. Motley, nothing really changed too much here, but his run and pass blocking is just non-existent. And I definitely, especially running RPO and having a dual threat, running quarterback, I want to be able to have my receivers block, outside. So if I'm running outside, I want them to be able to, I can get some of my better ones in my run package when I'm kind of doing that. So it's not going to kill me to have 1 or 2 receivers that really can't run block, and I can kind of mix them in and out on a package. But I just, taking an F guy is kind of tough, which kind of leads me back to looking at Quadarius Brinson. Again, I'm not sure why I'm offering, because he's still a run blocking F, but I think ultimately I like this guy a little bit better than Motley. He's 6'5", so he's the big receiver that I kind of want and need. I'm hoping that his hands get better. He's basically just about average potential for development, so I don't think he's going to really blow anything out of the water, but he's back to an A speed now as a 6'5" guy. He's got A speed and A agility with B strength, and he's pretty smart. So that's really kind of why I've went with him and offered. So I'm going to try and see if I can kind of get something a little bit more from him. And as far as the talking points go, I'm not really putting anything on playing time or winning because they don't seem to be really significant for him. But as far as valuing loyalty and security, that kind of comes in play with the organization. And so I'm kind of loading up on our coaching staff and stuff, and putting that on the organization. And then location is kind of there. It's really the only other thing. I could probably bump that down to 1 and maybe even give 4 on the organization because of the loyalty. Actually, let's do that. I think I want to do that and see if that might make a difference. Because location, close to home is not really a huge thing for him, I guess. And not that he really even is anyway. He's at Tim Tebow High School, 80 East, Ponte Vedra. But he's still 400 miles away from UAB. But he's got the offer. We're going to kind of see what we might be able to get from him there. So I do like the A speed and the A agility with B strength on a 6'5" receiver. Just got to get better hands. And he just run blocking is just not there. That's just two things. But again, UAB, I'm not going to get A's and B's across the board. It's just not going to happen. All right, going to center. Nothing's really changed on center. I've got him coming to the game this week. Actually, looking at kind of who I've got going there, I've got 4 guys coming. This is Tulane, and Tulane, they're a 17-point favorite. So I'm going to get a bonus by bringing them in. It could get nerfed down a little bit if we lose or get blown out, and it could really be a positive. Really big positive impact if somehow I was able to pull off some kind of miracle and pull the upset. But I've got Sanford, which is the cornerback, Jeremy Sheridan, which is a defensive tackle, Ramores Fielder, and Angelo Lindsay are all coming to the game. And actually, Sanford and Sheridan are two new scholarship offers too. That's 2 position points I haven't covered yet, but that's a couple more that I've actually ended up going through and offering. Home visits, I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I really only have 8 right there right now. Money wise, I could throw 7 more out there, but I'm not going to because there's a few of them out here that that I would do, but I've already kind of maxed out where some of them are, and these visits here are going to max out some of these guys too, so they're going to end up greening out on me after this week also. But I'm just going to probably try and target 8 or 10 of those maybe a week, because I just can't on about a $5,000 average, you get all 15 of them, that's $75K right there. And then if it's a home game week where you're spending 100 and plus K, for your official visits, you could be dropping $200,000 just on those 2 areas, and that will eat through my remaining budget. Especially if I'm trying to keep 500 there for facilities, that's not going to work out very well. So kind of going back, that's where we are there. Let's go back to I think we left off on our offensive line. So nothing's really changed on the offensive line. I still have these 2 centers out there. Judith is kind of my backup. If Lindsey goes away, and Judith is kind of increasing, he's up to a mild now. But if something happens and he does, then I'm just I need to go out and search for more centers, because I'm just not really. Schaefer's really not the guy. We'll probably just need to go ahead and pull him off the board, pretty much. But I really want to have better than C's, at least in those couple of areas there. But. And we have no offers to tackles. We signed our tackles, so I'm not really pursuing any more tackles now. And then as far as the guards go, it's still Josephson and Hagan. I've got those 2 offers out there, and I'm kind of loading up on the contact phone and home visit for those guys. And likewise on Bernstein and Mesa, I'll probably end up pulling them off the board. I need to go back out and do another search, because chances are, it's highly unlikely I'll get both of these guys. I'll be pretty lucky if I get one of them. That's why I got to extend my search on guards too. Kickers now, Hute has an offer out there now, so don't really know who it is. So he's not got really enough interest in anybody to really show any kind of top school, even with that offer. So that's still favorable for me in the sense if Hibbert was to come out and commit elsewhere, I could still probably go after Hute. Going to the tackles, this is an area. So I had a bunch of new ones on the board, and I'm still going to continue to contact these guys just for the sheer. I lost the one, so Mayfield went, so I got to get somebody else plugged in here. And I've had Sheridan on the board for quite some time, and he's warm. So that's a really positive sign because he's warm before I ever had him offered. Spent 30 grand on him, so he's been around for a little bit. I'm going to do an official visit, and I made the offer to him. And the reason I did that, I really like this Herman Artie too, with everything that was coming back with him. But he's new on the board, and I just got him there, and I'm just not sure that there's he graded well too, but I'm just not sure that I can kind of pursue him. If something happens with Lucero, then I'm obviously going to try and hit Artie hard as well. But I'm looking at Sheridan because I really feel like I can definitely get Sheridan signed, and Sheridan's pretty decent too. So I mean he's C- agility. C tackling, but his B speed for a defensive tackle, B speed, B intelligence, B plus strength, not too bad, definitely values playing time and close to home. I don't know talking point as far as talking to him. He's Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's like, do I load up on location? I mean, I'm not close to him, so I don't know. I mean, it's taking a hit there. I mean, it's a positive, but I really just want to. I could drop probably organization because that doesn't seem to mean an awful lot to him. But I really don't want to. If I'm getting green on anything, I don't want to drop it to zero and take it away. So, but I think playing time is the most important thing. So I'm going to kind of keep that talking point as the most. But that's where he is. And then Lucero is my other offer out there, and he had one of his attributes go to a C. I think it was speed, which is back to a B now. So he's back to all Bs. So, man, I tell you what, if I could get Lucero and Sheridan both, I'm hurting on my defensive line. I'm just getting eat up by the run, and I gotta get something. I'm gonna. Again, the whole transfer thing. So I'm not sure at the end of the year, what I'm going to have transferring out. Anything that transfers out, I'll get that number of scholarships back to try and get transfers in. But I'm going to focus really predominantly on defense. I've got to get better on defense. My defense is just awful. But if I can get some of these recruits here, that's going to help too. So. This Artie, again, he's pretty strong as well. He's Louisiana, so he's pretty close. Blake Pargo is one I've kind of looked at. He's got F hands. It's kind of the big knock on him. And Clifford Herndon, again, is pretty solid D hands. So those guys, Sheridan and Lucero really are looking better than Herndon or Pargo, either one. And then go to defensive end. I've got the one offer out there to Curlin Oliver. My backups are Cooper and McNamara. Nothing's really changed there. Just trying to get more interest. Linebacker, the same thing. I've got Ralston and probably my backups Fleming and Lewis. I'm not sure the viability of really getting Lewis. But he's B's on everything. He's just, his intelligence just isn't. He won't be wearing a radio. I like about my linebackers wearing radios, but he won't be doing one of them. And actually, Ralston probably won't even either. I definitely need to find me a Fleming could be an option, but I don't really. That's the thing. I don't really have anybody on defense, particularly on a linebacker, especially if I like the linebackers wearing the radio for the defense, kind of the quarterback for the defense. I don't have anybody that's, I like to have like 75 or above rating there, and I think my top guy, who I've got doing it now is Hannaford, and he's like a 59 or something like that. Cornerback. So this is the new area too. So I had several that I put on here. A couple of them came back in. Darby's he's down here as a 3-star ranking 1958, but he doesn't look really bad. So he's warm. So that's, I got to keep a watch on that. Some of these other guys, like this Lennox Bernard, I've kind of been pretty good on him. His hands have dropped a little bit. Still got the offer out here to Tervalence Kaiser, but nothing's really picking up, heavy with him. The new offer that I put out there, and I've got him doing coming to the game here with the Tulane game, is this Anthony Sanford. And the thing I like about him is he graded really well, and he has an amazing potential. So with these ratings here, everything in the B's and A's, I would love to get this guy, especially with these grades, amazing potential, and having these attribute scores. He's ranked 325, so and he's from Chicago, Illinois too. So I mean, you're probably looking at someone like Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame pulling the rug out from under me. Nebraska, one of the bigger schools or something. But I'm going to go for it. Hopefully next week I'll get enough information there to know whether I just, shooting for the stars too much or not. But we'll go with that. So, and then the other offer I kind of did, I went ahead and offered Marcel Williams. I decided after getting some information back here, I do like Lyndon Moore. He's okay. But I've had Marcel on the board here for a little bit. I've got not an enormous spend on him, but he's peaked up from a sum to a cool, and that's before I offered. So maybe making the offer is gonna mean a little bit more. Just F tackling and D intelligence. I just don't like that, and I'm hoping maybe that'll change. I can live with a D intelligence. I just really would like that tackling to come up to a D. Kind of tough. You can't really have a strong safety with F tackling. I just there's just nobody that's reachable out there. I guess Cortez Steele is a little, well, definitely a lot better tackling. I just don't like his speed and agility in that sense. So we'll see what kind of response we get with Marcel Williams there, and then free safety again. This is the area I'm hurting. So I've added a couple new ones in here. I haven't really made an offer out to any one of these. I've looked at Beeman and Earl Rath both. Earl Rath really has kind of dropped. He was much better in these areas than what he's showing now. He's still great on the scout grades up here. These are changing and have been changing really for the worse and not really even getting better. Beeman's been on here as well. He actually doesn't look bad. So right now, if I was to have to pick somebody, I'd definitely pick Beeman over Earl Rath. And where was he from? He's Mississippi, so he's more local too. Earl Rath was he's Mississippi also. But these two that I've added this Somalia Tarver. Just going to plug an interview and try and get more information out. Bad strength, and just a lot of C's there. All these scout grades look pretty good. Threw him on the board, and then it came back with this. And so I'm like, I'm not sure. And he's Virginia, so he's a little further away. Probably not somebody I'm going to look at. Definitely will probably end up going more back towards Beeman or even Earl Rath. But the Sidney Lukestock, I think, was a little. This guy here. He's a little bit more interesting, and he's closer. He's Chattanooga, Tennessee, so he's 136 miles. So he's really not that really matters too much. I'm not sure until some things come back how much any of that really matters. But past this week, it's probably going to come down to one of these three guys. If I had to guess, probably really Luke Soccer Beeman. But I need to get an offering probably to one of those and just start plugging away, trying to get one of those signed. They're both kind of high enough up in the ranks that I don't know. And again, not that that really matters, because you can go down to 2,000 and find some damn gems out there. But it just does seem like some of the bigger schools, are definitely plugging in those higher, areas like 600 and lower and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we are there, looking at dollar spends on where we're at there. Joe said these guys, you can always tell the guys that are a little further away, because anytime you're doing an official visit, it costs more. And you're doing home visits, especially when it's $6,000 and you got 5 of them out there, that's a $30,000 spend just on the home visits if you're using them all. That's kind of there. So that covers recruiting. So we're kind of set. We've got everything in our contact list, our phone list, and our home visits set up, and we're just going to get through the game. And next episode will be the game and advancing through the week to see what kind of recruiting hits we might have got. So we'll kind of follow the same format. Next area there. So recruiting, I usually go into training. And training, I did go through, and I did adjust a couple of these. So I actually moved some of these around a little bit. I don't know, that might not be one of them, but I think running back. Yeah, I think I had 6 on game tape there, which in the season now, I really need more, especially when I'm going down through here and looking more at my my defense. I just I got positional drills, and either athletic training and physical training. Game tape, I'm not as interested in the areas there. I do want to experiment and play a little bit, because I really would like to maybe even drop that to 4 and then boost something else up, like on the defensive line training, maybe take my physical to 7 and drop that to 4. And I think I've heard some people talk about using 4. I don't know that I know anybody or really heard from anybody that's really going less than 4 without it maybe being a negative impact in some way and ratings across in some other area or something. But I'd be kind of curious to hear anybody else out there that watches this that has done some of that. I'd like to kind of hear what kind of success you've had with that. But I've changed a few of those, and I've really kept the same people on the work ethic stuff. Again, I've got some guys that play some. I don't really have a starter per se that's really in the Sadler, I guess, would be. But right now everything's running fine from the prestige piece. I've got them at 23, but every time I take them to 24 even, I get 1 or 2 of them that bounce back with the fatigue issues. And I've talked to other people, and I think Collie was telling me that he drastically does his differently than I do, and he doesn't get the fatigue issues, and I think he's bumping higher than even what I am, and having no issues with it. So I wonder if there's something in the team or the ratings that, in conjunction with work ethic, maybe play together, that makes a difference. But I think in talking with Collie, he's like me. He just basically, in that regard, just looks only at the work ethic. Someone that's 90 or above in work ethic is someone that we would give that extra boost and bump to. So we were on the same mindset there. He just does his a little bit more than what I do, and I would like to do what he's doing, but every time I bump him up, I start getting fatigue issues with my guys, so I'm not sure what's happening there. As far as keeping, I'm going to keep Daniel Arlen on the head coach focus. I'm going to put Bedford on the OC, because I'm just going to try and see if I can get more out there of my running game. Not that I'm not getting a lot. I'm like 7th in the country in rushing still. I'm sitting 2 and 6, and I'm 7th in the country in rushing. How does that happen? Because I give up 400 points in 8 games. or I'd give up 400, but it's pretty dang close, I think. Defensive focus I'm going to put on Antoine Mitchell. So he's a guy that I've kind of brought in, particularly on the pass rush. In this game here, Tulane has given up a lot of sacks. And I've went back and looked at what a lot of people have done with them, and they blitz the crap out of them. It's like every game that I went back in and looked, it's like everybody just blitzes the living crap out of Tulane. And Tulane has given up 41 sacks in their 8 games. So they're basically giving up 5 sacks a game. Their last game, they played Memphis. Memphis had 10 sacks on them. So I'm definitely gonna blitz a lot more, and see if I can kind of do that. I still don't want to play too aggressively, but that's the training. So from that we'll jump into strategy now and kind of go back. And I've changed a couple things that I've done here. I've went back and kind of changed a little bit. So what I'm going to do on the Tulsa game is I had all the way up to this week, I basically just had the coordinators handling the prep, and I'm unchecking that, and I'm going to drive that now. So what I'm wanting to prepare for now is outside running. So I've watched them and I've looked and seen what they do a lot of, and they run definitely, probably 67% of the time for all of their snaps that they've had to this point, and all that running, the bulk of it, a lot of it, I mean, is outside. They do the jet sweep and end arounds like crazy, and they're not very successful with them. But that accounts for a lot of that outside running piece. But they still do, even with the running backs and stuff, they're still doing a lot of sweeps and running outside. So, I'm going to try and focus on that. And then they blitz a lot too. So while they get blitzed and they've given up a lot of sacks, their defense, they still blitz a lot as well. So I'm going to try and prepare, for their blitz and everything. Energy, I've kind of left it to 70-80. I'm going to keep it that way for now. I'm kind of liking that. I may end up playing with it some, maybe bumping that up to 85, maybe dropping it down to 78. I just haven't really looked real closely at how it's affecting the number of snaps, how many people are kind of coming in and interchanging out. And again, I think a lot of that really has to do with time of possession, because it definitely does seem like your energy gets affected on your defense more so than it does on your offense. While you could sit there and have 35 minutes of time of possession to 25, but your offense, you're not interchanging as much out. But then again too, my packages have a lot more, maybe more on the offense that's kind of interchanging out too. So as I'm jumping across and doing my run, goal line, pass, different pieces, I'm kind of already bringing people in and out. So that probably has some kind of effect on it as well. For the game plan, they're fairly successful against the run. I'm gonna run. I mean, I have to. I mean, that's really what I'm good at. But I'm gonna hit them. I'm gonna hit them aggressively on offense. I'm gonna actually pick up the tempo and go fast. I'm showing focus as a pass because I really want to do the short outside game. It seems like that's where they've had a weakness on the outside, and so I'm going to show it that way. But I'm still gonna run, and I'm just going to pretty much strictly have my running backs roles just listed as running, and my tight ends are just going to be strictly catching because they're really not great at run blocking, and I actually send them out on the passing a lot too. But with Arlen back in, my tuck and run, I'm keeping it off. And so if anything breaks down, or if he gets hit with too heavy of a rush or something, he can't check through them, and hopefully he'll just take off and run because he's got 90 speed. Defensively, I've really tossed around considering going aggressively with the attitude, but I've only done that twice, I think, so far through these games, and I feel like I've gotten burned a couple times on them. I really got burned against Troy. I mean, I was aggressive against Troy and it just got slaughtered by that quarterback. So while I'm going to still blitz a lot and I'm still going to try and pressure, I'm just going to keep balanced. And my focus, I don't really feel confident enough to really go one way or the other. I know they run a lot more than they pass, but I've done that the last couple times. I said the same thing about Marshall. They come out, first 10 plays they ran, 8 of them were passes, and they were a 4-1 running team. So I think they're looking, obviously looking at me. I think for me, if they come out and develop a passing game, then it's wide opens their running game. But right now I'm awful against the run. Primary coverage, I'm just going to run mixed, and my defensive line role, I want it to be pass rush because I want to put pressure as much as I can, especially with apparently as many sacks as they're giving up. With my line pass rushing, I'm going to kind of have my linebacker role in run support because I still think that they're going to try and run. And that's kind of where we are there. And so going back towards the play analysis, so in my sheet and kind of going through some of the stuff that I looked at for them, I still have everything kind of built out here. And I've went through their list, and I originally I just went through and looked at the Memphis game, their last game, the one that they was pretty successful against them on, and I kind of looked at some of the plays that they kind of successfully did. Then I went back and did a combination on all of them and looked at what some of the different formations and plays that was ran. And I didn't have any one play that was successful that on the season hasn't been ran probably 4 or more times against Tulane. Some of them maybe 10 or 12. And there was a couple of them out there that other teams are running, double digits, 10, 12 times on them, and and it's your yard average might be 8 or better, So I tried to go through and find at least one run, 2 passes, or 2 passes and 1 run, in a lot of these different areas. And it's just some plays I'm just like I did last time. So that worked out pretty decent. I mean, even though I got crushed by Houston, going through and looking at some of those, that way, I still had some success with it. It just got to a point, and I really wanted to kind of focus. I was trying to open up my passing game more, but I felt like I needed to run to get that opened up. And before I even could get off the ground good, I got so far behind them that I was taken out of my game plan. I was just forced into passing more anyway. But they don't, their I formation predominantly run. They don't do any RPO out of that. No RPO out of the pro set, and it's mostly run. Their shotgun is where they actually do most of their RPO. So they're, if they're in shotgun, they will run, but I think a lot of that is on the RPO side. Again, there's going to be a percentage of those that are going to be actual run plays, but I think the larger percentage is probably really works out to be passing. And they'll actually do RPO out of the shotgun 4 wide receiver as well. They haven't ran any spread, not one single spread play. Empty backfield or 2 tight end set. They have not run one single play out of any of those, and it's very odd to see no plays in the spread and no plays in the 2 tight end set, which is now they run a 2 tight end jumbo, but nothing out of the 2 tight end set. They've done more in the wishbone than a lot of teams. They're not successful on the pass out of the wishbone, but they are from the run. And you can see these sacks. So when they're in shotgun, they've ran 77 plays, RPO plays, been sacked 14 times out of those. They've been sacked. So they've been sacked 175 plays. If you take the 40 out of that, 135 possible passing plays, they've been sacked 25 times just out of that one formation. And I'll go back in here and kind of show this. We'll get close to closing this one out, so I don't want it to be too long either. And I'll be ready for my game. I'm not sure if I'll play it this evening and kind of get it loaded up, or if it'll be something that kind of works in the next day or two. But I'm kind of jonesing to get my recruiting. It's kind of what happened against Houston, as I was jonesing to try and see what I was getting recruiting. I'm feeling the same way again. I want to advance another week to see if I can get anybody signed. But if you go to strategies, go to play formations, I'm going to go to Tulane, and then I'm going to go to opponent's defense, and let's do formation. And this is kind of where they are with a lot of that. So basically, I think this, if you total that up, that's going to be like 41 sacks. They've been hit 41 times. But if you go down to the detail and you look at like a lot of what these details, I mean, there's just so many. I think it'd be more interesting to look at what Memphis did to them. So here's Memphis. Go back to the formation, and this is 10 sacks. So they had 10 sacks against them, and very much like the ECU approach, they're getting hit out of the nickel and dime, and I know why they're getting hit out of the nickel and dime here. And I think I'm going to do the same thing, because if you go back through and you look at the detail and you see where the sacks came from, every single one of these are blitzes. Hydra, well, no contains not, but Hydra, Blaster, Wacko, Zone Blitz, Swatches, and there's a lot of them in here that are actually blitz plays as well that just didn't cover a sack or anything, but they blitzed a lot, and it was out of nickel and dime, so he wasn't blitzing. If you look at anything outside the nickel dime, he blitzed the Kangaroo on a 5-2, and a 4-3 did a blitz. That was about it. Everything else came out of nickel and dime. So that's what we'll do. I have not been successful in everything that I've tried to do with to this point. But again, I know a lot of it has to do with the roster, but it is aggravating. You feel like you put a good plan together, and you look through some of this stuff, and you digest it and pull it all together, and feel like you get a good game plan. And it's the same thing I've done in other seasons with other teams, and it's areas where I felt like I've had a lot of success in the past doing everything the same way, and then I step into this playthrough with this team, and of course this is probably one of the harder teams I've started with. Before I've started with UAB, and I've started with mid-prestige teams and even lower prestige teams than that, because I actually like playing the lower prestige teams and working my way up more than, especially on a long multi-year deal, and try and build yourself up. I enjoy that a lot more. But I've been in weaker conferences, and I did shuffle these conferences around again, and I know that has somewhat something to do with it. Conference USA, I've kind of made a little bit, I guess, stronger, having Central Florida and Houston and Memphis and some of these other teams that are kind of in it. But I have struggled with this one. This has definitely been one of the biggest challenges I've actually had, especially going, slow burn on this thing. I'm just micromanaging every aspect of it, and just especially through the game planning and everything, and it's not anything I haven't done before, but it's definitely the least success that I've ever had before, and it just makes me want to keep trying it more and more and more, because it really kind of pisses you off, and you want to break through, and eventually I think I will, but I'm not going to fret over it this first year. Just keep recruiting and plugging away and trying year 2 get better, year 3 get better. Obviously year 3 get a 3-year plan. I better be in a freaking conference championship by year 3 is what I'm hoping. But sure as hell doesn't look like it right now. But with that said, I think that's where we will end this episode. I'm at home against Tulane. Next 3 games, I'll be at home against Middle Tennessee, at home against La Tech. These 2 games I think are, if I've got any games left that are winnable, it's definitely probably these 2, especially with them being at home. Then I go into a bye week before I go into the last game of the season, week 14, against that's rivalry week. Week 14 is rivalry week. 15 is going to be the Army-Navy week, and then week 16 is going to be all your conference championship games, which I don't have to worry about week 16. I get to week 13, I'm going to have 3 of the next 4 weeks of just concentrating on recruiting and no game planning. But hopefully we'll get some guys signed. But I will jump back in on the next episode. We'll do the Tulane game. We'll see kind of how maybe some of this works out, and advance it. We can see what kind of recruiting results we get out of that one. But I'll go ahead and shut this one down and get it loaded up, and we'll see you guys on the next one.